we look, you can see families were more than willing to go to the box office to support something like the Minecraft movie, while Rachel Zegler's Snow White continues to plunge. Minecraft in the United States in one weekend made more money than Snow White has made globally after 3 weekends. That's how bad it is right now.
Warner Brothers' Minecraft movie versus Disney's Snow White, which in theory should be quite a battle, but it's not even a fair fight. And it's pretty hysterical actually to watch.
Every single one of these reviews is just absolutely brutal. And what you also need to know is that these are not driven reviews. I mean, most of them are from the camp that should be supporting Disney, that should be behind this new progressive take on Snow White, and yet they can't because the film is apparently just that bad.
It was supposed to be a fairy tale comeback, a classic tale, reimagined for a new generation backed by the unstoppable Disney machine. But what the world got was something else entirely. While Disney was busy rewriting its oldest legacy to keep up with the times, a movie based on Minecraft, yes, the game with pixelated cows and exploding green blobs, stomped into theaters and left Snow White in the dust. And not just a little dust. We're talking demolished, obliterated, crushed like a creeper explosion at point-blank range.
Literally the only person there. And do you not understand how humiliating this is? Meanwhile, the experience at Minecraft goes something like this.
And at the center of this PR train wreck, Rachel Zegler, the rising star who was handed one of Disney's most iconic roles, only to become the symbol of everything fans hated about the remake. In interviews, she called the original Snow White outdated, rolled her eyes at fairy tale tropes, and insisted her version didn't need a prince or even dwarves, just strong female energy.
Saying that audiences will always line up to see her no matter what she does.
Every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
You know what's interesting about all this is that the only person waiting in line to see Snow White was Rachel Zegler.
But while Zegler was preaching empowerment, the box office had its own message. We're not buying it. Meanwhile, Minecraft, the movie people expected to flop, the one mocked as too simple and too childish, raked in hundreds of millions worldwide. Opening weekend alone, over $300 million globally, critics scoffed. Audiences cheered, kids screamed in packed theaters. And somewhere in the background, Disney's live-action Snow White was quietly fading into irrelevance. This wasn't just a bad weekend for Disney, it was an embarrassment, a cultural shift, the kind of moment where everyone stopped and asked, wait, what is Disney even doing anymore?
And of course, this weekend, Minecraft came out, which has absolutely dominated the box office, done significantly better than analysts even projected. And now we're finding out that Snow White has officially crossed $160 million.
So, it got destroyed at the box office. Here's the box office numbers. The Minecraft movie made $60 million on Saturday. Snow White made 2.
That was just the beginning. What happened next wasn't just a financial loss, it was a full-blown identity crisis. Behind the scenes, chaos, online outrage. In the boardrooms, finger-pointing, and in front of the cameras, a lead actress caught in the middle of a meltdown she never saw coming. So how did a billion-dollar empire end up losing to a bunch of digital blocks? Well, let's take a look at the numbers, because they tell a story Disney would rather you not hear. The numbers weren't just bad, they were historic, and not in a good way. When the Minecraft movie hit theaters, it didn't just perform well, it crushed every expectation. In the United States alone, it pulled in $60 million in just one Saturday. Not even the full weekend, just Saturday. By the end of opening weekend, it had skyrocketed to $300 million globally. Now compare that to Disney's Snow White, which limped across the box office stage with a measly $77 million after weeks of release. And that's with a bloated marketing budget, months of hype, endless teasers, press junkets, influencer campaigns, all of it the kind of push only Disney can afford. And it still tanked hard.
For $157 million while earning another $144 million internationally. The Minecraft video game was introduced in 2011 and sold more than 300 million copies. So it actually has a fan base, user base, people that care about it. In theory, Snow White should as well. Snow White's the movie that made Disney, the studio. They should have been more cautious and careful with their own IP. It's a $1 billion IP. The Disney Snow White, faithfully adapted, would have made $1 billion.
Some call it a bomb. Others are calling it one of the biggest box office flops in Disney history. A project that started with the promise of legacy and ended with theaters so empty you could hear the popcorn machine echo. And the critics? Brutal. Even outlets that normally side with Disney, the ones that applaud every diversity initiative, every remake, every bold new take, couldn't save it. Reviews were scathing, not because of the cast, not because of the visuals, but because the film just wasn't good. Audiences walked in expecting magic and walked out wondering what they'd just watched. Meanwhile, Minecraft was doing the exact opposite. Theaters were packed, fans were showing up in cosplay, kids were laughing out loud, teens were recording reactions on their phones like it was a concert, parents were grateful it wasn't another preachy slog. It was just fun, no agenda, no moral sermon, just simple, chaotic, heartfelt fun. And that's what makes this loss sting so much for Disney.
You had the marketing material not being all that good, a lot of advertisements were really mediocre for this film, and to top it off, they made tons of changes and they strayed away from the source material, which upset a lot of fans.
Whereas the Snow White model is the message ad infinitum, shoved directly up your ass, and most importantly, in the most insufferable possible way, like screamed at you by an ugly woman for 2 hours. And so let's see how they fared against each other. The Minecraft movie breaks box office record with $300 million global opening, while woke Snow White slips again. Minecraft movie was a big winner, debut weekend, $300 million.
They weren't beaten by a cinematic masterpiece or a groundbreaking epic. They were beaten by a movie about blocks, because at least that movie respected its audience enough to entertain them. Snow White, on the other hand, it felt like homework, a lecture dressed in a glittery costume, something designed to fix a story nobody asked to be fixed. It didn't take long for the internet to turn on Rachel Zegler, and let's be honest, she practically handed them the pitchforks herself. From the moment she stepped into the spotlight as the new Snow White, fans were curious. A fresh face taking on one of the most iconic characters in film history? Sure, people were willing to give it a shot, but then the interview started. Zegler called the original Snow White creepy. She laughed off the idea of a prince saving anyone. She described the story that launched Disney's entire empire as weird, outdated, and not something modern women relate to. Bold statements, especially when you're starring in a remake of that very story. And that's where things spiraled. Rather than honoring the legacy of the character, she distanced herself from it, publicly, repeatedly. It wasn't just a modernization, it felt like a rejection, like she was embarrassed to even be in the film. And to audiences who grew up loving the original, that felt like a slap in the face. Her attitude came off as dismissive, condescending, like she was scolding fans for liking a fairy tale, for believing in magic. And when people pushed back, she doubled down. "If you don't like it, don't watch," she said in one interview. "I don't need your support." That line, it went viral for all the wrong reasons. Instead of winning hearts, Zegler alienated the very people Disney needed in those theater seats. Even neutral fans started questioning the casting. Why would Disney choose someone who clearly doesn't respect the role? And to make matters worse, she wasn't just critical. She was confidently critical, almost proud of the fact that her Snow White wouldn't follow the same path. No prince, no traditional romance, no fairy tale vibe. Just a girl boss on a solo mission. Now look, strong female leads are great, but this wasn't about strength. It was about tone. Zegler's words turned Snow White into a TED Talk with a tiara, and it made the whole film feel like it was less about story and more about messaging. And the wild part? She didn't even write the script. She didn't direct. She didn't make the big calls, but her face and voice became the symbol of the backlash, the scapegoat. And while that might not be entirely fair, it worked. Every time Snow White was mentioned, Rachel Zegler's interviews were dragged back into the spotlight like a loop of PR disasters on repeat. But the truth is, this movie's problems go way beyond a few bad sound bites. The real storm was already brewing behind the scenes. Let's be real, this film was in trouble before the first trailer even dropped. Insiders say the script was rewritten multiple times, each version trying harder and harder to be modern, more progressive, more message-heavy. And in the process, they lost the one thing that makes people actually want to go to the movies: story. Instead of preserving the magic of the original, the charm, the innocence, the fairy tale, the studio shoved in heavy-handed themes like they were checking off a to-do list. Equality? Check. Independence? Check. Anti-traditional tropes? Big check. But where was the wonder, the warmth, the actual adventure? It wasn't there. It got lost in translation. And then there was the marketing, or what little of it fans actually liked. The trailers were vague, tonally confused, and worst of all, uninviting. They didn't say, "Come see something magical." They said, "Sit down and get lectured." The visuals were dark, the humor was flat, the villain barely visible, and the CGI dwarves, don't even ask. Compare that to Minecraft, a movie with a fraction of the budget, but clear messaging. Fun, adventure, chaos, chaos, family-friendly energy. The trailers were loud, bright, action-packed. Kids were quoting the lines before the film even dropped. Meanwhile, Snow White's promos looked like a perfume ad shot in a cave.
Encouraging to see a movie that decided to do the opposite of Snow White, which is, according to all available reviews, including from the people that I trust the very most on this platform, it is non. The Minecraft movie does not try to beat you and box you about the ears with the message. It is just silly fun for kids, which is what a kids movie should be.
Disney, they didn't pivot, not once. Even when early screeners were coming out with brutal feedback, the studio pushed forward like nothing was wrong. One reviewer called the film a fairy tale told by a committee. Another said, it feels like a lecture disguised as a bedtime story. You'd think that would be a wake-up call. But Disney stayed the course, doubling down on the themes, the messaging, and yes, the actress at the center of it all. By the time the movie hit theaters, the narrative had already shifted. Snow White wasn't a fairy tale anymore. It was a culture war lightning rod. And in a world where audiences just want to have fun for 2 hours, that's chaos. So how did a movie based on digital cubes, with no real plot, no classic storybook source, and a fan base of mostly kids and YouTubers, become a box office powerhouse? Simple. It knew exactly what it was. The Minecraft movie didn't try to lecture you. It didn't aim to fix society. It didn't come with a 12-point press tour explaining its deeper social message. It was unapologetically dumb, chaotic, loud, and fun. And audiences loved it for that. Think about it. Minecraft is a game with no strict storyline. It's all about creativity, imagination, and goofy adventures. That spirit translated perfectly to the screen. The movie didn't overthink itself. It just delivered a wild ride, full of blocky explosions, absurd characters, and Jack Black screaming his way into the hearts of kids everywhere. Critics hated it, sure. Rotten Tomatoes gave it a 40% critic score, but audiences, 87% approval. You don't need to be a Hollywood insider to know what that means. People had a blast, and they didn't need a cultural think piece to get there. While Snow White was busy reinventing the wheel, Minecraft just gave fans what they came for, a good time. Parents were relieved, kids were obsessed, teenagers showed up in Minecraft hoodies and started cheering mid-scene. Some theaters even had to call in security because groups were getting too hyped. The energy was real. People weren't just watching the movie, they were participating in it. And let's not forget the casting choice that sealed the deal. Jack Black. The man's a walking meme, a certified energy bomb, and whether you love him or hate him, he understands how to entertain. That's what movie stars are supposed to do. He brought the same magic he gave Bowser in the Super Mario Bros. Movie. And once again, audiences responded. Because when someone has fun in a role, we feel it. It's contagious. Now compare that to Snow White. The lead actress spent her press tour criticizing the very film she was promoting. The trailers lacked soul. The movie didn't feel joyful. It felt like homework. So yeah, Minecraft won because it respected its audience's time. It wasn't deep, it wasn't groundbreaking, but it was honest, fun, and unapologetically entertaining. And that's what makes its success so important. It sent a clear message to Hollywood. You don't need to rewrite history to make a hit. You just need to make people enjoy being in the theater again. But while Minecraft was rising, Disney was scrambling, not just to fix its image, but to manage the blame game behind the scenes. Now here's where things get messy. Because while the internet was roasting Rachel Zegler for her viral interviews, something much bigger was happening inside Disney HQ, chaos. Executives were furious. Leaks from inside the company revealed a swirl of panic, blame, and desperation. Some pointed fingers at the marketing team for not course-correcting early enough. Others blamed the scriptwriters for packing the story with modern themes no one asked for. And then, of course, there was Rachel, the face of the film, the public punching bag, the perfect scapegoat. And let's be clear, she was a huge part of the backlash. Her tone-deaf interviews made headlines, and her public attitude toward the original Snow White came off as smug and dismissive. But here's the catch. She didn't write the movie. She didn't direct it. She didn't cast herself. She was the face of a product she didn't even control. So why did she take all the heat? Because it's easier to blame a 20-something actress than admit your billion-dollar studio misread its audience again. Disney executives let her run unchecked during press tours. After the first backlash interview, they could have pulled her back, refocused the message, tightened the PR, but they didn't. They let it all roll. And when things blew up, they let her take the fall. Some insiders even believed this was intentional, that Disney needed someone to take the spotlight off the larger issue, which was that the movie itself was fundamentally flawed. Even if Rachel Zegler had been silent, respectful, and charming, Snow White still would have flopped. The film just wasn't good. And then there's the casting controversy. Zegler, a Colombian-American actress, was chosen to play a character famously described as having skin as white as snow. Disney said the choice was about inclusivity. Traditionalists saw it as yet another case of erasing original lore to appease modern sensibilities. Whether you agree or not, the result was clear. The casting debate drowned out everything else the film could have done right. And Disney, a company known for obsessively protecting its brand, somehow missed every warning sign until it was too late. Now Zegler is left holding holding the bag, her name forever linked to one of Disney's worst-performing remakes. Fair? Probably not. But effective? Unfortunately, yes. And while she's getting dragged across social media, Disney's biggest names are quietly moving on, distancing themselves from the failure, prepping the next remake, and hoping people forget how badly this one went. But fans haven't forgotten, and what happened next proved just how far Disney has fallen from the golden age of fairy tales. If this Snow White disaster feels familiar, that's because it is. Disney has been on a losing streak with its live-action remakes, and fans have been noticing. What started as a novelty, reimagining classic animated films with real actors and modern technology, has turned into a tired formula of bloated budgets, awkward rewrites, and a growing disconnect from the magic that made the original special. Remember The Little Mermaid? That film stirred up its own whirlwind of online debate before it ever hit theaters. Casting controversies, leaked scripts, arguments about modern updates. The cycle was identical. And while that movie didn't bomb quite as hard, it also didn't soar. It made noise, then disappeared. Just like Pinocchio, Peter Pan and Wendy, Mulan, and even Dumbo before them. These remakes follow a pattern, a safe IP, a modern twist, big marketing, buzzword-heavy interviews, and then silence. Or worse, backlash. Because these aren't reimaginings, they're replacements, and audiences are tired of being told that what they loved growing up was somehow wrong. With Snow White, the stakes were higher. This wasn't just any story. This was the story. The original Disney animated feature. The one that put Walt Disney on the map in 1937, the foundation of the entire Disney empire. To fans, it wasn't just a movie, it was history. So when Disney rewrote the script, recast the actress, cut out the dwarves, and scrubbed the romance, all while marketing it as empowered and updated, it felt like betrayal. The soul of the story was stripped, and all that remained was a socially correct husk with no heart. And let's be real, it's not that audiences are against change, it's that they're against bad change. Updates are fine when they add something meaningful, but when the update feels forced, smug, or agenda-driven, people check out fast. And they're not just checking out of one movie, they're starting to check out of Disney altogether. Fan trust is eroding. People are second-guessing upcoming projects. The idea of another live-action remake, whether it's Hercules, Tangled, or Bambi, now comes with more skepticism than excitement. And unless Disney reverses course, the damage might be irreversible. Because at the end of the day, you can only mess with the classics so many times before people stop caring. And that leads us to the biggest question of all. Where does Disney go from here? That's the question echoing across the entertainment industry right now. Because this isn't just about one movie failing, it's about an empire wobbling and possibly collapsing under the weight of its own ego. The Minecraft movie wasn't just a surprise hit, it was a wake-up call. It proved that audiences, especially younger ones, crave fun, not finger-wagging. They want to laugh, escape, be part of something exciting. They don't want to sit through a moral thesis disguised as a fairy tale. Meanwhile, Disney is stuck in a loop of trying to fix what was never broken. Instead of celebrating its legacy, it's rewriting it aggressively. Nostalgia used to be Disney's greatest weapon. Now, it's something they seem embarrassed by. And the Rachel Zegler fiasco? That was just the spark. The flame had already been building, one awkward remake at a time. All it took was a pixelated underdog to burn the whole thing down. In a twist no one saw coming, Minecraft, a game with no real plot and characters made of cubes, delivered the lesson Disney needed most. Respect your audience, respect the source, and above all, tell a good story. So what happens next? Does Disney course correct and get back to what made it beloved in the first place? Or do they keep pushing remakes that feel more like rewrites of history? That's up to them. But one thing's for sure, the audience has spoken, loud and clear, and they're not here for lectures, checklists, or self-congratulatory messaging. They're here for magic. And if Disney can't deliver that anymore, maybe it's time someone else did.